Alright, everybody. We're going to be talking about some of the most obnoxious content on the entire internet coming out of the right. Who remembers No Bullshit? Or No BS, as he later rebranded himself. Many of you probably don't even know who I'm talking about because his channel died so long ago, but if you remember him, you know he was the original The Quartering. The original chud grifter guy. He started out making very popular, very well-received videos about how every new thing was woke, how feminists were bad, and he uploaded constantly, and he did pretty well on YouTube for quite some time. But as time passed, he started to kind of let the mask fall off a little too much. He started JQing in a lot of videos, he started outright saying that women shouldn't be allowed to vote because they're not capable of, having any agency to run society, and he just got very overt with his stuff, and this led to him debating Destiny, and, well, I'm pretty sure I might get banned from YouTube for streaming a murder if I show what Destiny did to him on that stream. He quickly died off from YouTube shortly after those debates they did. But one of the last videos No Bullshit made before his great downfall was a video about how women would fail in any survival situation without men. Now, mind you, this is kind of a little bit of a response discourse. A lot of pop feminist icons will oftentimes say stuff in, sort of a quippy, we don't need men statement, right? Like, we don't need men. We could survive great without men. If men didn't exist for a day, I'd go out and live my life and I'd be totally safe. And I can get how a lot of guys feel offended by that because the implication is that they can't do anything to not be perceived as a monster by women. And that feels kind of shitty, but the fact is that's reality. And it doesn't matter how good of a person you are as a man, a fair amount of women are going to see you pretty much the same as a monster walking down the street and be as scared of you as they will be a monster walking down the street, because so many men have been that bad. And it doesn't matter how much, not all men, that's how they'll feel. And there are two things you can glean from that. Either try to recognize why women feel that way and understand that it's a somewhat valid feeling, or allow it to fester into mutual hatred. A lot of incels have made this an understanding, and instead of understanding why women have these connotations with men by default, even if they're a total stranger, even if they, aren't doing anything that would make them seem, assuming in any way, a lot of guys end up festering over that, and it makes them hate women. Yeah, it's like the bear discourse, right? However, this is sort of a response to that. The idea that women, actually, couldn't survive in any survival scenario without men. Now, obviously, at this point, the idea of needing survivalists in our modern society is kind of ridiculous. Survivalists are not a profession. Survivalists are a hobby. Like, if you're a survivalist, that's not considered your job unless you have a TV show about it, entertaining people on their hobby. That's a hobby. Survivalist is not a crucial job we need in our society today. We have surpassed what everyday animals need in their everyday life, right? We have technology and jobs and art and stuff like that, right? There are a lot of jobs far more suited for women in our society than for men, nowadays especially. I think we learned that in particular with World War II, when women basically held up the entire US economy when the majority of men were at war. I could get into this for a while, but apparently this guy, Jay Hall, who is a very large right-wing channel by the looks of things, 630,000 subs, made a video called Women Humbled After Failing to Survive Without Men. So I guess this is a new video in the trend of, going over episodes of, Survivor or something like that, and making fun of the feminist women on there that say they're going to do fine and they don't need no man. That does happen fairly often, and those women do tend to do the worst. So I imagine that's what this is going to be.
Women definitely need men. That's a fact.
For survival?
Yes.
Definitely not.
No.
For survival. How am I alive?
In the modern world, absolutely no. They do not. Absolutely not. They don't need men. The world that these guys are desperate to create, though, is one in which they do need men, because they don't want women to have agency or economic independence. It's a big part of why they're so opposed to women getting into STEM and having jobs and not getting married young.
Right.
All right, guys, so I pulled up a clip from the show Survivor where the men are competing
Oh,
against the women.
It's, you know what's funny about this? It's the same 2-decade-old episode of Survivor that No Bullshit covered. This video is covering the same episode of Survivor that aired like 15 or 16 years ago that was 10 years old when No Bullshit covered it 6 years ago. This is like from this is literally an episode that aired in the early 2000s, yes.
To see who can survive the best and thrive. And just take a look at what happens a week into the challenge.
We've been crapped on since we've been here. We got 0 sleep last night.
All right, y'all, make sure you hit the like button to see the rest of the video. Let's get it.
You know what's so fucking funny? Like, as a lefty content creator, right-wing propaganda is so cyclical and unoriginal because they don't have anything other than, like, repetitive buzzwords to say, that eventually, if you stick around and pay attention to their, like, culture war nonsense long enough, something that you've already argued with them about will circle back around to being a relevant argument again. And it's like, oh, you didn't even have a YouTube channel when I was watching people make fun of these arguments, buddy. Like, yeah, we've gone full circle. Zan, you need to show the like button like this unironically. I really am not good at shilling for myself, you know? Even when I do a call to action for people to like and sub and comment and all that stuff, I feel bad for doing it. And I don't do it anywhere near as much as other content creators do.
What is it that you think we need y'all for? I would love to know. What do we need y'all for?
How much I hate men and why I hate men.
You're all replaceable. Don't ever get too comfortable and don't ever think otherwise.
Who hurt you?
We do need men, though. We do.
We don't need them.
We do.
No, because they're lesbians.
And for men, the scientists have now discovered a way for women to impregnate themselves using their own bone marrow. And the only child that can result from those pregnancies are female. So we no longer have any need for you, genetically or physically.
Though she's not
So notice how we're going to see a mix of just random women who are talking about the fact that they don't need men because they are independent and they don't need a guy to support them. They are just an independent person, just as we've expected men to be, literally since men were a thing. That's going to be mixed in with, like, psychos talking about wanting to, like, breed men out of the gene pool or whatever. Unfortunately, the fact is there are, like, crazy feminists out there that unironically, gleefully cheer about wanting to breed men out of the gene pool. And, you know, based, haha, funny, I know, jokes at men's expense are funny. We joke about that all the time. But these are people who are kind of serious about it. Like, that girl wasn't entirely joking. I think she was probably partially joking, but she wasn't entirely joking. Femoid supremacists.
And the only child that can result from those pregnancies are female. So we no longer have any need for you, genetically or physically.
Though she not realize the amount of hatred that is coming out of her mouth right now. Who hurt you? I really want to know. And I sincerely apologize on the behalf of all.
Ooh, are we gonna get, like, the bizarre, I'm a dude who is, focusing on how hateful feminism is? It's actually feminists who are the real sexists, and they are far more hateful than any men are towards women. Is that what it's going to be? He's going to be, like, virtue signaling how wrong it is to be so sexist and hateful towards men? Is it going to be one of those conservative videos? The one where they, like, play victim and, like, what's it called? Concern troll the whole time? Okay. All right.
Men that have done you wrong. Because, wow, you need some love in your life. You're filled with hatred. I'm sorry. You a hating machine!
I don't need a man
Like, isn't it interesting, though? Because, like, I do think that what they were saying is abhorrent. I don't know why, but I really like this background. I don't know what it is. Maybe it's the gradient and the lighting or whatever, but I really like this foam background. Dude. I need to find a way to identify what foam this is and get this shit. That is beautiful. That foam, like, pattern and gradient just pleases my eyes in a way I can't describe. It doesn't look real, you know? Anyway,
Need a man's
You need a
chromosomes.
physical woman to bear a child for you.
And y'all need
And y'all need a physical sperm.
Where
does it come from?
From a hospital.
That's
I can
right
get it
now.
from a
Give it to
hospital.
From a man.
From a hospital. I can look for a book and find a
And
man.
I can find a womb to hold it in.
And find a what?
You need a physical woman.
And you need a physical man to give you sperm.
You need a physical man.
Okay. Women do not need men for survival because sperm is not necessary for survival. This argument is very bad, but these women are not particularly good at arguing against these guys' arguments. Dude, how many of these, like... okay. I'm just gonna say it. Is there not, like, a ridiculous amount of podcasts run by extremely misogynistic, conservative black men that focus on bringing on mostly women of color to call whores, humiliate, imply are stupid? Arguably, they would probably argue dumber than white women, and just like humiliate in exchange for like views and OnlyFans subs. Like you can call me racist for pointing this out if you like, but this feels like a very bizarre dynamic that is repeated in like so many fucking of these podcasts, these red pill podcasts. It's almost always women of color that are brought on and humiliated by these guys, implied to be dumb because they can't 3v1 debate a bunch of guys who are like experienced in pushing their misogynistic propaganda. And they're going to question them about every little detail of their life. So like, oh, did your dad leave you when you were a kid? And it's like, if you answer that honestly and they did, and your dad did leave you as a kid, which is a very common thing for most people, like a lot of people are in that position, that means you've automatically lost the debate, you know? And they're just going to like hammer at you like that. And it's so, it doesn't just feel misogynistic. It feels arguably racially motivated. I'm not the only one that gets that, right? Like, does this not feel like a little bit of, God, I've heard black leftists talk about this before, but I'm probably not the most knowledgeable in this topic to discuss it. But there does seem to be a problem, this is more localized to the black community, that has to do with black conservative men pushing particular racist and sexist stereotypes onto black women. And women of color broadly. It's Latinas and black women. It's called misogynoir. Is that the term? Thank you. I think that is the term. I've heard it discussed. I'm not super knowledgeable about it, but this feels like that, basically. You know what I mean?
No, you...
Bro, you need a physical.
Listen.
Yes.
You don't.
Listen. If a physical man didn't go to that hospital, it would not be there. So you need a physical man, bro.
She's trying so hard to fight against the logic, to fight against the fact that she does need a man, because where does sperm come from? A man. But I don't have to say much.
Wait, sperm isn't needed for survival. Sperm is needed for a species' long-term survival. At this current rate, obviously that could change with scientific discovery, yada yada. But right now, for our species' long-term survival, we need sperm in order to reproduce. That is true. But a single woman does not need sperm to survive. And the argument is about whether or not women need men for survival. So unless we're talking about womankind needing sperm for survival on a long-term scale, no, women don't need to have sex and get sperm to survive. No, it's not necessary. No, that's a non-argument.
Because we also have women that are sensible and that are speaking up for men.
So we no longer have any need for you, genetically or physically.
Sweetie, it's the men that hold me back from drop kicking people like you across the floor for some of the foolishness that you say. Y'all women are simply not physically strong enough to hold me back from my unbridled rage at some of the foolishness y'all come up with. Like, babe, I know you mean well for the women. I really don't think you care about the men. But babe, just know that if they didn't exist, all of the people that put up with what you talk about would vanish. There are some girls that exclusively hang out with boys because they put up with some of the stuff that they say that other girls simply would not. I would rather be locked in the center of the earth with the only thing to keep me company is the screams of the tortured souls in hell than live in an all-female planet. I said what I said. By the way, just to add more insult to injury, it's actually really sexist for you to behave that way towards men.
And here's some more.
All of history.
I'm sorry, but like, any women that make like a big deal about being sexist towards men tend to be really pick-me. Like, these are just weirdos on TikTok. Mind you, none of this stuff in any way, shape, or form is informing policy decisions or the real-life experiences of men or women. None of what these weirdos on TikTok are saying. Meanwhile, Arizona just today banned abortion. Now, a lot of conservatives, and this guy would probably say, yeah, base, that's what we want. But the majority of women would disagree. The fact is, the idea that feminism is in control is absolutely ridiculous. The Supreme Court is opposed to women's bodily autonomy. The majority of states across America are as well, and are passing legislation as such. Where in America or in the world are they passing laws that specifically discriminate against men in a negative way? The only place I could think of is maybe Japan, where the majority of people that are homeless on the streets are men, because the social, safety net systems in Japan don't, you have to be a woman or a child for any money from the government. If you're a man, they expect you to pull yourself up by your bootstraps. And so the majority of homeless people in Japan are men. So besides there, I can't really think, oh my God, why will my nose not stop itching? I can't think of an example of a place where men are being discriminated against legislatively by women or by feminists.
We needed men. We still need men. We just don't admit it. Men built the world for us. We couldn't survive without them. They do the plumbing, the sewers, the garbage collectors. They build the buildings, engineering. They do all of the hard jobs in society. And so women pretend we don't need them, but we literally couldn't survive without them. Being able to be a single woman on your own is such a privilege that women have never gotten in all of society.
What? Yes. It's not a privilege. It's a right, though. The fact is that for a very long time, there were heavy legal and, up until recently, social, though they're still around, restrictions on what women could do. And now more than ever, women are getting into STEM. Women are finding careers where they're able to be independently wealthy and independently financially stable, which means a lot of these women are sometimes waiting until their 30s or maybe not at all to have kids or to get married or find a long-term partner. Many of them are, like many men have for a long time, living that lone wolf life because now more than ever, they can. The fact is, women have a choice that they didn't before that men did. That's not privilege, that's equality. It is the prerogative of misogynists to make progress that has happened look like a privilege allotted to minorities, and anything else asked for look like looking a gift horse in the mouth.
And you know why?
And how we thank them is we shit on the men that...
And that is a YouTuber called Just Pearly Things. You guys can go ahead and check out her channel. Well, guys, before we get further...
No one's checking out Pearl's channel these days, I promise.
Into this video, I just want to say I am Jay Hall. If you're new, subscribe, man, because I try to keep it real and I also try to keep it balanced. I am a firm believer that men and women are built to live in harmony. We are like yin and yang, and when we come together, we create a perfect balance and harmony. But if you guys want to check out more content from me...
Oh my God, just like the Chinese communists. Holy shit. It's like that one statue where, the man and the woman hold up, two sides of the sky or whatever. That one, is it Chinese communist statue? I think it's Chinese. Correct me if I'm wrong.
I do have an Instagram. You guys can follow me over there. I do respond to DMs. And I also have a second channel where I post behind the scenes videos and just more fun, interactive videos over there. So with that said, let's get...
Is he trying to play the centrist? Yeah, most conservatives who are too chicken shit to stand by their beliefs do. Yeah. No, the default position you should assume anyone who says they're a centrist has is conservative until they've indicated a position or belief that doesn't vibe well with conservative ideas, right? It is impossible to be a centrist, right? Centrist just means politically disaffected, which always by default serves the right. Political disaffectedness does not serve the left and its ends in any way, but does everything to serve the right's ends besides being in outright support of what the right wants. So by default, centrists are serving the right's what the right wants, and fighting against, like an anchor on social progression, what the left wants, which is why leftists, or progressives in general, anyone on the left, are naturally at odds with most people who call themselves centrist.
Get into it, man.
Ladies, I simply said, men don't need women for survival. But we do need you guys to propagate a society. However, let's reverse it. Women definitely need men. That's a fact.
For survival?
Yes.
Wait. Hold on a second. Men don't need women for survival, but they do need women for propagating a society. So he makes a distinction between propagating a society or a species long term for women's necessity to men, but not men's necessity to women. Also, how many guys can you think of that you know that the second they stopped having their mom around to help them out with anything, they fall apart. I know that was me for a fair few years after I turned 18. I was embarrassed about it, but then I realized, wait, that's the most normal thing ever. You know, you don't just instantly flip like a switch into an adult at 18. But yeah, tons of fucking guys spend the majority of their, like, early adulthood a fucking mess. And usually it takes a lot of them. It takes a woman coming into their life and teaching them how to fucking be an adult, because women are taught oftentimes way earlier to be mature and to have a lot more responsibilities and have to be serious and regimented and what have you. And men are kind of taught they're allowed to be rambunctious and lazy and carefree and a lone wolf and live their lives and have fun in their early life. But if you're a woman, you got to go to school, go find a husband, get an MRS degree, get married, lock it in. That was what it was for a very long time, you know? And these guys are mad that women are not... Women are a trophy to the misogynist. And women having the autonomy to instead be people and not actively, like, always actively looking for a guy to support them, which is, of course, you know, what they want. If that stops happening, then they see themselves as having lost a substantial amount of their value in the dating market.
And we're definitely not.
No.
For survival. How am I alive right now?
Yeah,
I've got no man.
yeah,
All right, guys, so I pulled up a clip from the show Survivor.
The fact is, individually, the discussion about whether or not women need men to survive is an individual thing. Does a woman need the support of men in her life to survive? Honestly, the answer is probably sometimes yes, sometimes no. Just like it's probably the case for most men, that they probably sometimes yes, sometimes no need women in their life to support them. Because nothing is black and white. Like most things, humans and how their lives work and what they need and what they don't need, it's very much shades of gray for individuals, right? Everyone's different. It is these guys' job to put everybody into a box in your mind and convince you to hate one box and to like another box. It's my job to tell you that there are no boxes, and this guy is lying to you by telling you there are.
Where the men are competing against the women to see who can survive the best and thrive. And just take a look at what happens.
Mind you, I'm not defending, like, the misandrist shit these women are saying. I'm just making fun of the fact that this guy's getting his panties in a twist over it, yet you'll never see this level of energy come out when there are objectively discriminatory towards women laws passing that aren't a choice. They aren't people saying cringe things that they disagree with. It's their lives being impacted by legislation they have no power over. You'll never see this energy come out for that kind of stuff. But if people are saying cringe stuff on TikTok or say a cringe thing on a 20-year-old episode of Survivor, you better believe they're going to make a whole 10-minute video about it.
Week into the challenge. So they have no food, no fire, their clothes are soaked, and they're freezing.
We've been crapped on since we've been here. We got 0 sleep last night. We stayed up the entire night, froze, soaking wet. And we had
to be fair, if literally any of these women had been in Girl Scouts for like 3 months, they would have been able to get by. Like, you could probably have selected for different women and had a much better time. If any of these women were country girls, like actual country girls, or were in the Girl Scouts, they would have been fine. They would have been fine.
had fire because it rained, put it out, so now we haven't eaten.
So at the brink of survival, let's see what they do next.
Hey, boys!
Where you going? They're gonna call the men for help.
Y'all have fire, do you?
Do I have fire?
Yeah.
They are sounding like damsels in distress, because you can see they're using their girly voice.
They really are, though. He's not wrong. He's not wrong how quick they went from using their normal, slightly lower voice that they were talking to each other with to, like, the high-pitch, it's time to woo a boy, girly voice with the guys. Like, it's time to be cute and make them feel bad for me.
Right now. And that really appeals to our protective side because we are meant to protect.
I don't know if it's that. I think it's they're cute women and guys want to do nice thing for cute women, especially when they get all sad about it. I don't think it's that deep. I don't think there's any evolutionary shit to that. I think it's just cute girl making herself look sad. You want to help her. It's manipulation. It's emotional manipulation, not some evolutionary biology bullshit.
Women.
I just want to be warm for like 1 minute.
The masculine energy is meant to protect the feminine energy. It's just programmed within us. And this is why it damn near irritates us when a girl acts like one of us. Because like, how am I gonna protect you if you're acting like me? You're acting like a man. So how am I gonna protect you? You're not appealing to my protective side, my protective programming.
I was thankful last.
He's literally arguing right now that women need to act like damsels in distress and be damsels in distress so that he can fulfill his desire to protect women and feel like a real man. How is that not the biggest self-report, like the most pathetic self-report of all time?
Last night that we stuck to our guns a little bit after tribal and didn't run over and jump in the men's shelter.
This lady right here is probably one of the most confident women and the one that was bragging the most about beating the men. Yeah, we're gonna beat the men. We can show them that we can survive better than them and we're gonna thrive. Feminism!
But going over there this morning, I have no
It's really wild to watch as, like, right now, it's 2024, and we're seeing the start of a new wave of anti-feminist, like, rhetoric online. And that, like, roughly right now, we're back where we were in 2014. So it makes me wonder if by 2026, we're going to be in another wave of like anti-feminist fervor akin or worse than Gamergate, like in the next year or two. I wonder if it truly is like a hard cycle of internet culture. There have been many other things that have been said to work in cycles. Fads are known to be that way. And I'd argue that the right treats culture war shit like a fad.
I've never been so miserable.
When it comes to survival, all that feminism and gender equality stuff goes out the window. Everyone just naturally goes into their roles without even talking about it.
I couldn't get my tail over there to that fire fast enough. Come on, guys. Ladies.
Oh, hey guys. Didn't see you guys coming.
But I hope this is a temporary pit stop at the men's camp. I don't think any of the girls want to stand over there. It's uncomfortable mooching off of them. I mean, they're all like, excuse me, move.
So this just goes to show you that when it comes to survival, all that...
So here's the big question. What does this guy know about survival? What do any of these guys know about survival? The answer is jack shit. They make videos on the internet. I don't know a crazy amount about survival, but I'd be willing to bet I know more than them. I know that you can find fresh water pulled up in leaves, oftentimes, in forests, if there are no other sources of fresh water around. That knowledge alone is something that most people don't think of in situations. There are lots of plants that you can identify that store lots of fresh water for long periods, even during droughts. Hell, starting a fire. It's something that a lot of kids in Florida know how to do because it's dry there. Like, it's either really wet there or really dry from the sun. And so I taught myself how to start fires with friction. I found one of those little flat, like, rips of bark that you can get off of one of those pine trees that are, like, little strips of like, you know what I'm talking about if you've been to Florida. I think it's a palmetto bark. Really flaky bit of palmetto bark, and then I stripped it up into little bits, and then I took a hard piece, and I took a stick, and I basically just rubbed that onto the harder, thicker bark with like the fibers all around it until it started smoking, and I was like, wait, this is working? And I did it really, really fast, and eventually I had actual cinders, and I blew on it, had a little wind to help me, and soon enough I had a fire. A scary big fire I had built in my grandma's driveway. Like, not a big fire, but like when you're a 10-year-old and you just figured out how to make fire on your own in the driveway at your grandma's house, you start to get a little scared, and I had to stomp it out, and I was like, okay, the fire's gone. I'm not talking about this till I'm an adult. And I think my mom might have just heard that story for the first time. But yeah, it's not that hard, and like, a lot of people don't know how to do this, but if you grew up in the right upbringing, if you went to like Boy Scouts or Girl Scouts or something, you probably know how to do this. And you can also do it like broken pieces of glass and stuff like that. It's very easy to do it with a magnifying glass. However, what do you think this guy knows about survival? His job is to make videos on the internet. I have a feeling this dude would be begging those guys for a place in that tent just as soon as these women were. Hell, I'm pretty sure this guy would have drank from some rank-ass water that would have given him, like, dysentery or some horrible, horrible virus in his bowels that would have him shitting his brains out and begging to be sent home. Because this guy doesn't know what plants you can eat in that part of the world. This guy doesn't know where to find fresh water or how to, like, keep it contained or how to, like, gather it and make sure it's clean. Do you guys think this guy knows how to desalinate water? Something you pretty much inevitably have to do in a, like, survival situation like what we see here on a desert island for long-term water production? Hell no.
This just goes to show you that when it comes to survival, all that feminism and gender equality crap just goes out the window. Everyone just naturally goes within their roles. You know what I'm saying?
Do you think this guy knows that in many places in the world you can just dig a few feet down and hit the water table and there can be fresh water just there and it'll be dirty, like literally dirt-y, but you can filter it and there are a variety of ways to do so, particularly using descending levels of grit. You start with rocks and then you do, like, you know, some broken up leaves and like leaves, sticks, stuff like that. And then you go, like, descending levels. If you can find fine sand, that's the final thing. And you put it all in a sock in layers, and you put that in a water bottle, and then you drip dirty water through that, and you just keep doing that over and over and over and over again, and each wash is going to come out cleaner. And eventually you'll have clear water, and from there you need to disinfect it with boiling. But it's already fresh. Now you just need to clean it so it's as clean looking as possible and has as little dirt in it as possible. Then you boil it. And if you can start a fire and you can contain it in something that won't melt, you can do that. You can actually make a fire at a low enough temperature not to melt plastic, but a high enough temperature to sanitize water. That is fully possible. You can not quite boil, I don't think, but get water close to boiling in like a plastic water bottle. That is an important piece of advice. You can sanitize water with heat in a plastic water bottle with fire and coals in a survival situation. That sanitizes it, doesn't clean the water, and cleaning the water doesn't sanitize it. Those are two different steps, and you can't all in one those without special equipment or tools that you probably won't have.
It's just in modern society.
I like how this ended up just turning into me giving survival tip advice.
In this first world country, feminism can exist because when we're in a first world country, no one needs to do this shit to survive. We're in our comfortable, air-conditioned home, chilling on our bed with our phones right in front of our face.
So this guy's basically arguing women's rights are only okay in a first world country because outside of a first world country, you need women to fit their natural state of being the brood mares and slaves of men. I see.
Typing about how much the patriarchy sucks, how much men sucks. In the grand scheme of things, I don't see us surviving without each other. This is what will happen if all men left the planet.
What happened if every boy on Earth disappeared? First, half the world's population would vanish. And
are we really taking this guy seriously? God, the people who watch this content have had their brains rotted past the point of being reached. I'm afraid. I'm afraid for Gen Z and Gen Alpha, guys. I truly am. I'm fucking afraid.
And the ladies left would have the time of their lives until they realize they're out of water. That's because almost all the water treatment plant operators are actually men. Then the entire globe...
You know what none of these videos ever take into account that's always so funny to me? There is also 50% less people drinking water. Now there is twice as much water available at a given time, and 50% less people, or a little less than 50% less people to drink it. Obviously, it would be bad if all the men disappeared, but, like, this would just be an apocalypse scenario where half of humanity disappears, you know? It'd just be a semi-apocalypse scenario, but there would be twice as much stuff left over for people to survive off of. Though society would collapse with half as many workers. That's not a man-woman thing. It's a half as many workers gone would destroy our society.
Power would go out that night because men make up 90% of electricians, engineers, and mechanics. But it gets worse. Over 70% of the world leaders would be gone, causing a global apocalypse and the extinction of the human race.
Maybe we should elect more women and also perhaps encourage more women to go into STEM and to be in these fields? Like, is this like a thing where women cannot learn these things or don't want to learn these things? Because over time, women are getting into these fields at a higher and higher rate due to feminism, which is what this guy hates. So is it bad that we are headed towards a society where men could disappear and it wouldn't collapse society overtly and outright? Is that a problem, that women are getting to the point where they are on equal footing with men? Is that what you are fighting against? Is that why you hate, and I quote, feminism?
And this is what would happen if all women were wiped off the earth.
What would happen if every girl on Earth disappeared?
Hey, this is the wrong video. I don't know who made this, bro. Whoever made this is a jack.
Alrighty. Yeah, I mean, it all comes back to women bad, right? It all comes back to women bad. I wonder how many women are watching this content and enjoying it. I imagine this guy's viewer percentage is probably tickling the balls of 100% male. Anyway, I'm curious to see what you guys thought about this whole video. I imagine you don't have anything nice to say about this guy, so I'm excited to read the comments. Also know that any engagement down below with the comments really boosts the channel a lot, so commenting really helps. And if you want to help even more, you can always like or thumbs up the video, VOD, whatever it is you're watching, no matter where, what, or when you're watching. Every like is basically a cattle prod to YouTube to push my content in the algorithm to way more people, and it really helps a lot, and I really do appreciate it. And of course, if you haven't already, be sure to follow my social medias, linked down below. I really appreciate it. And if you want to support me directly, financially, and you can afford to do so, please consider donating, subscribing, or gifting a sub on my website, xanderhall.com/live, or supporting me kindly through YouTube, Twitch, Streamlabs, Stream Elements, Patreon, or buying merch through Streamlabs as well. Even if you don't want to buy any, I do recommend checking out the merch just to see what it looks like. It's funny. I made it and it's funny. And on top of that, if you want to, you should definitely consider joining my fan Discord. The link is down below and it's totally free. It's the main hub of my fan base. We do watch parties, call-ins, and game events in there. I announce all my uploads and streams there. And later tonight, we are doing a watch party of the awesome horror show From. We're going to be continuing Season 2. The watch parties have been popping off, and everybody who's joined the show has gotten fucking obsessed with it. Every person who has joined us. I mean, like, literally not a single person is an exception. Every person we've got on board has gotten fucking obsessed with From, and has gotten everybody they know obsessed with From. So, and I'm one of them. So, yeah, I'm so excited for this show to take the world by storm. I hope you join us for the watch party. And, yeah, I hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope to see you there.